De'Vondre Cambell.
Oof.
Walk off the field midway through the third quarter as the San Francisco 49ers were in the midst of losing to the Los Angeles Rams. And, I mean, Dre Greenlaw came back after tearing his Achilles in the Super Bowl. We all saw that as he was running onto the field in the second quarter. He was finally back. It was the one bright spot this year for the 49ers in a year that has been just dark and cloudy basically since the start of it. Remember when Brandon Ayuk wanted to get paid?
Yeah.
That's how long it's been, trouble in 49er land. And so, De'Vondre Cambell says after the third quarter when they wanted to rest, Dre Greenlaw and D. Winters got hurt. You know what he said? No mas. He said, I'm good. I don't want to go out there. If you don't want me in the first quarter, then you didn't want me in the third quarter. Now, Ephraim, I never played professional football, believe it or not.
You didn't?
Shocking, I know.
Dang.
But you did. So I want to ask you, as a guy in the locker room, Have you ever seen anything like this? And if you did, what was your reaction?
No, I've never seen anything like this. I've seen guys be late. I've seen guys, not come in focused. But on Sundays, I've never been a part of a team where a guy walked off the field and refused to go in the game. And I'm glad because it's so troubling on so many levels. The great thing about a sport like football, no matter who's at quarterback or running back or no matter what's going on, it's a team sport.
Yep.
And whenever there's a moment where you feel like you're more important than the team, then it's time to go look for something else to do. Now, I don't know what's going on in this young man's life. It could come out in 2 weeks that something horrific had happened in his family. Like we don't know what it is. But at first glance, what did Mike Singletary say? Can't win with him. Can't do it. And that's how I feel about this situation. You can't be in that locker room. Look at those guys, especially the type of season the 49ers are having. You can't look at those guys in the face and be like, oh, that was my bad, man. I was tripping. You can't trip like that.
Now, is it intensified because of the season? If the 49ers were 11-2 right now, would we be having the same level of conversation about this?
We'd be digging deeper into, I wonder what's going on in his life. But because it's a ship on fire, man overboard, now it lends to, this is another reason why the 49ers aren't having the type of season that the injuries, this type of discord in the locker room, this all makes this, people are now going, the 49ers are done and they're in trouble. Because when things start coming out this negative about a team, the first thing you do is you look at the record and you be like, this is a systematic thing then. Something's going on within that locker room.
So my thought initially when I saw him walking off the field was, he must be hurt. Then realizing he had played no snaps prior to that moment, I said, this is interesting. What's going on here? Now, I agree with you in that we don't know the whole story. We've yet to hear from Mr. Cambell himself about why he decided to remove himself from the sideline. Mm-hmm. But the response of his teammates after the game and the directness of the coach after the game lends me to believe that there is not something that's more, out there and is off the field, right? That is impacting him and impacting his decision making. But it does speak to the idea of what you were saying just a second ago of how things have been so tumultuous in the locker room, both off the field and on the field for the 49ers all year, starting with the Brandon Ayuk and his contract situation, and Christian McCaffrey and his injury, and will he come back? He's actually got to go to Germany. What's that about? Right? And then you have, two players had, terrible family incidents happen in which, their newborn child has recently passed away. Like, that's something that is a lot. That is something that is hard to get up and go to regular work, much less when it's somebody else's job to stop you from doing yours.
Yeah, it's right? A lot going on.
And so my thought was when I was watching the end of this game, and I'm seeing And this is kind of tied on the heels of Bill Belichick, and we'll talk about him coming up at 8 o'clock. We'll talk about his impact and what he's got going on in North Carolina. But some of the reporting there was that the NFL didn't want him. I feel like if Kyle Shanahan was on the market, the NFL would want him. And it made me wonder, because we were talking about should the 49ers move on from Kyle Shanahan. With this type of stuff going on, right, with everything that was laid out, and then all the success that he has had there, albeit not winning a championship, all the success he has had there, all the players aging, do you think Shanahan would be interested in sticking around for a rebuild, or would one of these situations like Chicago, for example, look more appealing? Because to me, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm looking at everything even. My team stinks now. Well, that team stinks, but at least they got a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, but I think just knowing Kyle, and I do, I've known Kyle when he was.
I made Bel Air. Of course, I know. Kyle
was in college, and then also on a professional level, he was my offensive coordinator in Houston. So I know each other. We know each other. We played Xbox together. We played Halo together.
Did he beat you?
No, I'm nice on them sticks.
Okay.
Anyway, that's another topic and another show. Kyle's not going anywhere. It's a situation. He's perfectly happy in this situation. The control that they have, him and John Lynch, they're like a package, right? They came in this thing together. They both asked for guaranteed 5-year contracts because they didn't want to get into a situation where 2 years things didn't go the way they expected them to go. The turnaround hadn't been complete.
Right.
They didn't want to be, forced to leave. They wanted to make change. They wanted to change the dynamic and the trajectory of the team, which they have done. They have been nothing but successful for the last 5 years. So I don't see this as a situation where Kyle is like, he's looking over the fence and saying, hey, that grass is growing in a little bit greener than mine. He knows he has the pieces. Obviously, the last time they had this number of Pro Bowl or All-Pro players on IR is in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
You have to win the war of attrition to be a good football team. And sometimes good football teams run up against it. And it's a situation where they've run up against it, and he knows this year doesn't make what next year is. Just like last year doesn't make what this year is.
Sure.
He's seasoned and been around enough to know he's not going to tuck and run when things get hard.
I get that, and I get that. But what we do know is going to happen next year is we know that George Kittle will be a year older, and while his game doesn't look a step slower, Deebo Samuel looks about 3 steps slower, and he's going to be a year older.
Tight outfits, man. They don't get enough circulation before the game, walking in them leather pants with the zippers. And
Either
stuff.
that or he's got too much circulation from the couch to the fridge because that's what's making the outfit look tighter. But no, and then also you got the contract of Brock Purdy coming up. This 49ers organization has a lot of big decisions that are upcoming.
Like most organizations. That's just that's football. When people start pointing out, well, they got to do this and they got to do that, that's not any different than any other organization in football at some point. Every time those tough decisions come up, do you pack your things and go to a situation where you have more time not to have to be a coach or make tough decisions? No. I mean, you step into it and make the decisions best for your team.
I'm coming this from a guy who was baptized a Saints fan, right?
Okay.
So I watched I watched the best coach that my franchise ever had, basically retire when the salary cap got unmanageable and his quarterback left. And now for the price of a second and a 4th round pick, you can get the greatest coach in New Orleans Saints franchise history to go up to Denver for a 6-year contract. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm thinking could one of these scenarios, could it be, you're Chicago, you got Detroit, who looks like they're not going anywhere with Dan Campbell. Matt LaFleur is installed. You got 2 of the best coaches in the NFL probably in your division already. Do you want to be another Antonio Pierce where you're in the division with Harbaugh, Andy Reid?
First of all, don't be disrespectful. Don't be disrespectful to Kyle Shanahan, okay?
What? I'm saying Kyle. No.
He's not an Antonio Pierce.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying if you were the Raiders,
yes,
you would have much probably rather hired Jim Harbaugh this offseason than Antonio Pierce.
Right.
Then you would maybe be going up against, you would going to stack up against Sean Payton and Andy Reid.
Yeah.
I'm saying if you're the Chicago Bears, wouldn't you rather have a Kyle Shanahan to go up against Matt LaFleur and Dan Campbell?
They can't get Kyle Shanahan. They can't get him. They had an opportunity to get Jim Harbaugh. They didn't so. Speaking on Kyle and the San Francisco 49ers, it is my opinion that Kyle will be there. He's not going to leave. He's not looking to leave. Things are going to be more difficult moving forward, but that's what they pay you for. And so I think whatever the Bears decide to do, they have their own issues they need to clean up. And yes, Caleb Williams is a bright star in a otherwise cloudy sky over there in Chicago. But in terms of the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, the core, the nucleus is there. It starts up top in the front office, trickles down to the coaches, and it trickles down to the locker room after that. And all three of those things, great owner, good management, great coach, players are going to come and go. Contracts will come and go. What can you do? Yes, everybody's going to age, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to, at a certain point, your great players will age out. They have a pretty good quarterback they haven't had to pay for the last 3 years. They're going to have to pay him money. Is he a $60 million a year quarterback? Probably not. I think there's some room for negotiation there, but that'll allow you some wiggle room to do some other things that you need to do to address some of the things in your team.
I don't know. Kyle Shanahan, you might want to take some advice from George Jefferson. Time to move on up.